you would be just like this. How did I know? Welcome back to the program, the Penalty Box Live. We were MIA last week. Our guest was pretty sick, and we only want to bring quality, so we didn't just throw somebody in, and people don't pay to see us, and
No.
So here, Tim, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
Man, I'm great. Wes, can you jump in here for just a second, real quick? We just want everybody to see this, like the blue of Wes's shirt. Look at how black he is again. Black Bart is back, and
it goes with the red of his blushing.
Oh my gosh, he's a handsome man. So, all right, Wes, you can get out of here now. Get out of here, you filthy animal. Shout out to Woodstock Inn and Brewery. Well, let's kick this off with some shots on goal. I'm going to let you go first, sir.
My shot on goal is actually 1.5. I'll go with the half first. What does the number 701 mean to you?
I know exactly what that means. That is the number of followers we have right now, and our goal is to get to 1,000 followers on Facebook by the end of, what did we say, April?
End of April, right.
Yes. So we're at 701. So if you wouldn't mind, share this. Tell your friends. Tell your grandma. Tell your grandma's friends. Tell everybody to give us a like and a follow.
Cool. So my real shot on goal is unsubscribes, right? So we're all subscribed to all kinds of stuff. And, you sign up, you buy something, you didn't know that you click something, and next thing you know, affiliates of affiliates are emailing you. And I don't have a really problem with that from a marketing standpoint, but when I click the button that says unsubscribe, I don't want to have to type my email back in to tell them to unsubscribe me. That pisses me off.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because I have email unsubscription on here, because it's something that our guest Joe Quatrone is very passionate about. If you follow him or you're connected with him on LinkedIn, you will see he's very passionate about it. So I agree with you. Make it easy. Like, if I want to unsubscribe, make it easy, right? I am right there with you. I've got a couple of shots on goal. Our guest, Joseph Daniel Quatrone, who is on today, is a huge Washington area fan. And tonight, the Capitals and the Bruins play. And some of the predictions out there are Bruins 5,010 to the Capitals -3. So to see what happens.
They have Chara now, so that could hurt them.
Yeah, we'll see. I do have a couple other shots on goal. JJ Watt to Arizona.
Did that happen?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
Yesterday, the day before, kind of surprised me. I think that takes the Cardinals to like a different level, right?
I thought he wanted to go somewhere he could instantly win. They're still on an upward. I don't think they're in the top 10 of teams.
Yeah. I love Disney Plus. We have two little girls, love Disney Plus.
Yep.
So if you like Disney movies, great. I'm right there with you. But there's a Netflix movie called Charming, and it's basically about Prince Charming and how he has been dipped in like charming dust when he's a baby, and he can't help but everyone love him, and it's actually really good. I would challenge parents to watch that. My last shot on goal, from the land of Have you seen now that the investigation into Tiger Woods, they're now they're warranting or whatever the black box from his vehicle, and I'm like, well, and they said, well, this is normal protocol. Really? I've been in a car wreck before, and they don't request the black box out of my.
I think that I heard that there were no traces of anything in his system. It was early in the morning, but who knows? It could have been a tender. I just heard that he was speeding. He's speeding. It was his fault. I mean, that's what I heard anyway. And it's a shame. I'm a big golf fan. I think he's amazing. His personal life aside, and breaking Jack Nicklaus's record, whether he be the Babe Ruth of golf, who knows? But Tiger changed golf, man. He changed it. He changed everything. Yeah. And Waffle Houses. He changed Waffle Houses too.
He did change Waffle Houses. Very, very true. Well, you got any more shots on goal before we get our guest on?
I'm good. I'm jonesing for some Joe.
Well, let's do it. Joe Quatrone is our guest today. Joe, how are you?
I'm good. How are you all?
Good. Glad to have you on. Thank you for joining us. I'll kind of introduce Joe in a weird kind of way. I met Joe on LinkedIn. Somebody had liked a post of his, and you know how like somebody that you know likes someone's post, then it pops up in your timeline. And I'll tell you actually what it was. Joe had posted, and it was probably a year and a half ago. He said, and I've seen his content and his things enough now, and I've talked to him on the phone that I know the kind of heart he has. And he literally posts on LinkedIn, hey, I know everybody's got a lot going on right now. My DMs are open. How can I help you? Is there anything you want to talk about? And I don't know if you remember that, but I messaged him and I said, hey, I got a freaking question, Mr. Brainiac from VaynerMedia that knows it all. I'm like, I can't figure out on Facebook how to do a targeted ad to hit a pizza operator. And guess what? We couldn't figure it out. Yeah. So there's my son there shouting out Joe. There we go. Yeah. But that's kind of how I kind of ran into Joe, and Joe was gracious enough to try and help my son graduating from college, and so thank you so much. I think a lot of people probably look at you and they know where you're at and where you work, and they see your title and like, whoa, this guy's big time, right? And I know that happens a lot because you're kind of, I get it a lot. But you have just this giant heart to give, and I just want to tell you I appreciate that. And so welcome to the Penalty Box Live.
Oh, no, thanks for having me. And interesting about that post, to elaborate a little bit more, I was actually posting that because I got an overwhelming sense at the time that everybody was posting stuff to LinkedIn about how well they were doing and how much they were crushing it and all that kind of stuff. And, at the same time, all you ever heard about, kind of in the news was how much mental health issues were skyrocketing. And I had a sense that maybe some of these people that were crushing it, weren't actually crushing it in every sense of the word. So I just wanted to be available. It was more or less because I wanted to provide a forum for people to talk about things that were tough for them to talk to anybody else about.
Right.
Have a lifeline of sorts and allow people to kind of feel like it's okay. And it's okay if you're not doing so well in your career, because we all go through those valleys. So that was really the gist of it. But I'm glad we got to connect, and I got to meet your son through the process. So that's always
he speaks highly of you, and because I know you guys have interacted a lot, and he's a great kid. And I didn't work out to stay in New York City because of what happened a year ago, but you know what, he's doing well, and he's having a lot of fun. I want to hit you with this is deep, hard-hitting questions straight out the chute. Okay,
sure. Yeah.
What did you take away that you learned at Circuit City that you still apply today?
That you can't wait you can't wait around and try to perfect things because there's always somebody waiting right around the corner that's going to eat your lunch. And in that case, back in those days, it was Best Buy. But similarly, you could look at I also worked at Blockbuster. My first job ever was at Blockbuster Video, and they waited around trying to, sat up on their high horse and didn't really think much of the Netflix model, and then Netflix completely put them out of business. So, that's it. You always have to kind of be innovating and just trying to put yourself out of business, if anything. I know Gary talks a lot about that, and that's absolutely the right approach, I think.
So where I live in southern New Hampshire, a little bit 45 minutes north of Boston, there was a Circuit City right in the same parking lot of a Best Buy, and it was just amazing that no one went in the other building. It was just it blew me away. Hey, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It was interesting. So, like, Best Buy really there's no other reason that Best Buy beat out Circuit City other than real estate planning. So, Circuit Cities, hence the name cities, were typically a little closer into more kind of urban centers, whereas Best Buy really took advantage of the suburban boom. So those are two different, and it was also like on certain sides of highways and stuff like that. So by the time, and Circuit City just kind of lost its way when it came to buying up real estate, and then they just kind of went out of business.
So they're like the they're like the Burger King of electronics.
Exactly. They just didn't have a good sense for the traffic patterns that humans kind of operated in.
So I did a little digging on you. At age 21, you took up running.
I did. Yeah,
and,
changed my life. Yeah.
And ran. You're like Forrest Gump. You ran for 400 straight days.
Yeah, a little bit more than that, but yeah, my goal initially, I was 300 pounds at the time when I started to run. A little bit of a unique case too, because I hadn't even started college at that point. I had taken a few years off between high school and college because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I also knew that I was going to have to pay for my own schooling because my parents didn't really have the means. And so, yeah, I mean, I got to a point where I was really, depressed and down in the dumps and really feeling sorry for myself. And I decided to really snap out of it and not figure out a way to not feel that way anymore. So my goal at the time was to just go running every day for 100 straight days, regardless of the length of time or the length in kind of distance. It could have been 10 feet or 10 miles. It didn't really matter to me. It was really the act of just establishing a goal and sticking to it and creating something that would stick in my daily routine. And yeah, I wound up blowing it out of the park. And in the process, I wound up losing a lot of weight. I got to under 200 pounds eventually, but most of it came off. I'd say like 80, 90 pounds of it came off in the first 7 months. Because at my height, there's no need for me to weigh 300 pounds.
Well, I was how tall are you?
I'm about 5'11"-ish.
Okay, so 300 pounds on you is a lot.
Yeah. I should probably typically weigh in the 185, 195 range.
Well, this, welcome to the show. This is the kind of stuff we like. What do you weigh now? I'm just kidding, Joe. You don't have to answer that. I'm just kidding.
I've added a few more back since then. I mean, it's been 20 years, so I'm 42 almost now. Yeah. And I'm full on dad bod mode. So
hey, yeah. It's hip these days,
I was curious. You're a guy that's basically from the DC area.
Yeah.
You moved to New York. You're married. By the way, your wife is way out of your league. Clearly,
total out of my league.
Total. Yeah. And clearly, your kids get her genes, which is phenomenal. But then you go cross country for work to LA. Yeah. Like how just that decision has got to be like, what are we doing? And what goes into the thought process in that? And then how hard was it?
It really wasn't that hard, mainly because I made the decision earlier on in my life that being in my hometown probably wasn't realistic. I decided, and this is the thing that always drives me crazy about when I talk to young folks that are getting ready to go to college. They often decide to study things and then they get out of school and they don't move to the centers where these professions are actually doing well or economically feasible. So I went to school for marketing and advertising. Well, where do you think the best markets for that are? It's New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, maybe London, Amsterdam, Paris. There's no market for that in DC. If I wanted to stay in the DC market, I should have studied, something that would have lent itself to becoming a defense contractor or maybe an engineer or something that really works in that market. Economy's thriving down there, but it's just nothing that interests me. I remember being out at bars when I was younger and talking to friends of friends and acquaintances and them telling me what they would do for a living. And I remember my eyes just glassing over because I could not care less about it took them a half hour just to explain their job title. And I was like, this sounds so boring to me. I don't understand why you do a job. Nothing against those jobs. I'm sure they're great and fantastic. It's not for me, So I kind of made the decision early on that DC wasn't going to be where I was going to, plant my flag and kind of raise my family up. So from there, it really wasn't much of a decision. It was, one of these big major cities or bust. And Leanne was in the same position. My wife, she's in the fashion industry. She studied fashion, so she was in New York. LA's fine for it as well.
Right.
Now we're in a kind of an interesting paradigm where we're work from anywhere, and we've totally acclimated to being Zoom full time, and we could probably do our jobs from DC if we wanted to. But that was really the thinking early on. It wasn't scary going to New York or LA because I already knew DC wasn't in the cards. And now it's even less of a concern because my parents and my older sister moved away. So I don't even really have much family in that area anymore. My little sister and brother-in-law are still down there, but for the most part, all my family lives in North Carolina now, which is not home. It's not home to me. I don't miss North Carolina because I never lived there.
Yeah.
What's a pregnancy like in a pandemic?
Well, I wasn't the one that was pregnant.
Right.
So
Right.
answer that question from that point of view. But I think going through a pregnancy funny thing is I feel like a pandemic itself, like when you force yourselves to like hunker down with your spouse and your kids and all that kind of stuff, it can go one of two ways. It can either backfire completely and you could be miserable, or it could bring you closer together. I happen to be fortunate that the pandemic brought me and my family closer together, which you kind of need. It's not like we're out here on like a 6,000 square foot, house and a 5-acre plot of land. I've got these young kids and they're like horses. They need to run around. But being kind of like, in one place, all kind of like going through the same thing at the same time, the same complexities, the same stresses, and really not having any choices. I think we confronted a lot of our demons and we really learned how to live and love more intensely. So I would say like it was crazy, but I don't think it was. I think it was actually quite nice. It was an interesting process, and we were very open-minded about going through the pregnancy together in that way, and we were able to bring a happy, healthy baby girl into the world in August. So
congratulations.
That's awesome. In the year and a half that I've known you, your title on LinkedIn has changed 3 or 4 times. And so when I introduced you, I'm like, I don't even know. So what exactly do you do right now?
Sure. So right now I am the Senior Vice President / Head of Marketing / Head of Education for the Sasha Group. So when I say marketing, when I say head of marketing, I mean of our West Coast office. I run the West Coast branch of the Sasha Group, and I also head up the education division globally for the Sasha Group. And so the Sasha Group, for those in your audience who may know VaynerMedia, they may know Gary, but they're not familiar with the Sasha Group. The Sasha Group is still part of the VaynerX family. We're just oriented a little bit more towards small to mid-sized companies. Versus VaynerMedia, who's fully entrenched in like Fortune 500 marketing. So think Budweiser, think Unilever, all those kind of things. We typically operate at like the $500 million or less level, which is still quite a wide ocean of potential clients. I think 99.7% of all companies in the United States, at least, are deemed a small business. They have less than 500 employees and they're doing hundreds of millions of revenue or less, not billions.
One of the things that you do is you have the Stork Group, which you gave me access to yesterday, and I've already said to you, like, sign me up. I'm in, because I got in there yesterday and in this private Facebook group that there you go, that has, if you'd like to join, check this out. But it's got basically 300 and something people in it, and the content that you guys are posting in there of the how-tos and the whys and how it's incredible.
Thank you.
And you still being the head of education, do you develop all that stuff? Is that all you're doing?
So I wasn't the kind of brainchild behind it. We've been trying to crack the nut of content as a service for a while now as a company, for like 4 or 5 years. We developed Stork about 9 months ago. We launched it in the summertime. This was my predecessor and his team of education folks at the Sasha Group. I came in once my predecessor, Nick Dio, shifted within the VaynerX umbrella to the talent side. He became an influencer. He built something called the Honey House, and he's now a TikTok influencer. The Honey House, for those of you listening or watching, it's kind of like the Real World, but on TikTok, and it uses like fit fashion people. So it's a very interesting concept. So he's kind of become TikTok famous, and he moved over to Vayner Talent. Now he's on the talent management side of Gary's universe. I slid into the education side mainly because I have a big interest. When I went and pursued my master's degree, I always figured that one day I was going to wind up a university professor, kind of in my late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
And when James, my boss, was looking for somebody to take on the responsibilities, I kind of raised my hand and offered my services because I'm really interested in figuring out ways. The primary reason I was interested in it was I know that the world is changing via the pandemic and our access to virtual reality products, Zoom, all things of that nature. So I really wanted to be able to carry the banner of education and help businesses learn how to do things in this new world order and train them on how to do things in this new world order. And so Stork is kind of like, we have two products inside of the education portfolio, the 4Ds, which I'm actually hosting tomorrow. It's an event-based product that features Gary Vee. He's inside of it. Think of it like a South by Southwest type of conference, but instead of thousands of people, you're in a conference room and there's 7 other business owners, so it's very intimate. My task since I've joined the education department or division has been to figure out a virtual version of that, right? So we used to do events in New York, Los Angeles, London, all the different cities that VaynerX operates in. It was about a $12,000 ticket. So I had the fortune of being able to inherit it, in a mature stage of COVID-19 where I think people were ready to start getting back out there, even if it was virtually, and learning and paying for events and stuff like that. So the virtual 4Ds is a monthly event, 6 or 7, 8 business owners in it. We've got some Gary Vee time. We feature probably 4 or 5 other speakers from within the VaynerX umbrella. And that one's $4,000. And then Stork on the other hand, so 4Ds, you can imagine it as like the fire hose of information, right? We're spitting so much stuff at you in a very quick amount of time. Stork, on the other hand, is like drinking from the faucet. And we developed Stork from our 4Ds alumni, which is about 500 or so people that have passed through that program over the past few years. They were constantly reminding us that, the 4Ds is fantastic. We learned so much at this event. But we really want something that we can kind of reconnect into on an ongoing basis and continue our pathway towards learning things. So we developed Stork for that purpose. We wanted to be able to create practical and tactical marketing advice. And this stuff doesn't feature Gary Vee at all. It's us in our own kind of environment as Sasha Group experts providing content that we feel most marketers should really understand in 2020, 2021, when they're getting their businesses off the ground. So that's kind of really what it's developed for. It's a much more accessible price point as well. It's a $300 for 12 months kind of endeavor. But the kind of product that we consider Stork to be, it's not a subscription product because we don't just limit your access to everything that we produce from the moment you sign up. It's more of a membership product. So it's more like a Peloton or a Calm or something like that. We're creating a library of assets, and we're doing it for ourselves, right? We're building what we think is relevant to marketers and to small businesses. And when you sign up and when you pay the $300 and you gain access, you activate your membership, you have access to the full library of content we've ever created, and then you have access to whatever we create over the next 12 months. What we also do is we don't pull any trickery on you. We don't do automatic renewals or anything like that. We try to make sure that it's valuable enough that after 12 months you're going to want to sign up again proactively for $300 because this is the thing that you're bookmarking. This is the thing you're going back to on a regular basis, and you're learning how to do new things and innovate within your own space.
Yeah, this is $300 a month, right?
No, it's $300 for the year.
That's
I'm
amazing.
kidding. I'm kidding. I know what it is. I like I said, I got you. You gave me 24-hour access to it. I'm looking at it last night, and I'm blown away. So anybody, hey, Dave, Rev Ciencio is on here. Anybody that's watching this needs to. How do they get it? Do they just go to the Stork website? Or
you just go to the Stork website, or you can request access through through Facebook. Stork, the group will pop up. Typically, we have to process the payment before we'll let you in. Your request to join the group will remain in a pending status until you actually do a swipe with your debit or credit card. But feel free to go to the website. Let me give you the link. It's Stork. Stork.thesachagroup.com is the website where you can actually click through and you can fill out a quick type form, and then it'll link you up with the Stripe payment page. You can make the payment, make your request on Facebook, and then we'll let you in.
Some great info. Anybody watching this needs to. $300 is a bargain for this. I'm just telling you. I was a little geeked out just watching some of the stuff. We try to keep the show to about 30 minutes, and so we were setting at 125. So I want to keep talking. Is it GIF or Jiff?
That's a highly debatable topic, but I consider it to be GIF, mainly because the acronym is something like graphical. It starts with graphical. I know that. So I believe since it starts with graphical, it should be called GIF. But I know a lot of people that call it a GIF.
Gotcha.
Including my creative director at Sasha Group calls it a GIF.
Right. So at Sasha, you're helping small businesses versus smaller businesses other than your Fortune 500. Now, you were at Audi of America for years. What did you learn there that you can impart on our audience that are smaller entrepreneurs that you've brought with yourself to Sasha? Now, I noticed that you have a passion for the consumer versus the investor, I heard. Mm-hmm. So if you could talk a little bit about what you learned there that you could transfer these days.
Sure. I was in an interesting position. I was at an agency, actually, but I was staffed at the Audi of America headquarters, and they were my primary client. And so it felt like I was very much part of the brand advertising team. But I was part of the team that really got their first initial social media practice off the ground in a time when most brands weren't actually on social media. And so I think some of the principal tenets of the way we activated in social media back in 2008, 2009, 2010 are actually starting to rebound and come back today in 2020, 2021. And that is that there still is a lot of opportunity for brands and marketers to do things in an organic fashion on social networks. You just kind of have to understand how all the platforms operate in order to find those opportunities and cracks and crevices to slide into. But obviously, Facebook's a more mature platform. It's been around since 2004 for consumers, since about 2008 for business adoption and business products. But there, when you think about strategically how you get your brand to be seen in a visible fashion in social networks, you got to understand, kind of where that network or program is in its product life cycle, understand whether or not it even offers paid media support and services, understand what consumer adoption looks like. And to what Gary says, you got to look for the free or cheap attention, right? So if I was today going out and I'm a small business and I'm looking to activate inside of social media, the first thing I've got to ask myself is, where is the white space, right, for brands? Typically, the white space for brands is wherever the big brands aren't. And the big brands that are all about scale and distribution are in places like Facebook and, Twitter and Instagram, because there's already scale there. They can just pay for reach, right? But the big brands aren't in places like TikTok yet. They're not on LinkedIn en masse yet. They're not doing things in places where you can actually get quite a bit of earned reach. So for me as a business, I'm going to figure out, come hell or high water, how I can sell stuff on TikTok and LinkedIn, because there's a lot of opportunity. I don't have to pay an arm and a leg for it. I can just create a content strategy. I can post frequently, early and often, and I can build a brand in those spaces. Something like Clubhouse that just came out. I don't know what the future of Clubhouse holds, but I'm pretty sure if I was a brand and I was able to get my CMO, onto Clubhouse, that might have an impact on my overall business. I might be able to figure out a way to do some business on that platform.
I was going to ask you about Clubhouse, and you kind of covered it. Maybe we can talk about it a little more in the OT. But I did want to ask you, because I put this on the original post. What's your Mount Rushmore of Washington sports for you? Did you put any thought into that?
Mount Rushmore people.
Yeah.
So what is there? 5 presidents on Mount Rushmore? Is that what it is?
There's only 4, but that's all right.
So Joe Gibbs would have to be up there. Joe Gibbs, Alex Ovechkin would need to be up there. Daryl Green would most likely.
All right.
And I would say, because I'm such a huge Washington football team fan, and I know their history more than anybody else, I would throw Sammy Baugh up there, just an old-timer committee member. He's probably got the best stats of any dual-threat quarterback / punter of all time.
Yeah.
Slinging Sammy Baugh out of TCU.
That's old school right there.
Yeah.
That's old school. I knew because I knew you'd have that nailed, right? Who's your Mount Rushmore of marketing?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, I think Gary's getting up there now. Like, he's obviously a mentor of mine, and I know him personally. But I've said since the day I met him that I always thought he was the David Ogilvy of modern marketing. But now that I think about it even more deeper, and I've seen how famous he's become, I've started to recalibrate my thoughts, and I think he might actually be like a Rockefeller of marketing. So I'd put Gary Vee up there for sure. I think maybe Jay Chiat from the early Apple years would go up there.
No doubt. Yeah.
So Jay Chiat would be up there. I'd say probably Alex Bogusky of Crispin Porter and Bogusky fame did a lot of really cool work with Burger King in the 2000s. That really stands out to me, and has always been an innovator within the creative space. And then. Ooh, geez, let me see. I want to give somebody that's not just a creative.
Tim Lord.
Tim Lord. There you go.
No.
Geez, it's a tough one.
I knew I was going to hit you with a tough question there.
I'm trying to think who else is really relevant.
I would be the guy taking the tickets for the Mount Rushmore tour.
Well, I'll let you think on that for a minute. But
let's do on that for a little bit.
Who in the marketing world do you see, because you've been doing this a long time? Like, who are some up and comers? Who are some shout outs to some younger folks, that you see that you're like, wow, this person's got it? Or do I not want to put anybody on the record?
Mean, I'll speak from experience. It's easier for me to speak to some of the young guns that I've managed and I've had a direct relationship with. It is to kind of just kind of pick random people based on the success of their brands. But I think, let me see, Todd Bradley and Harry Barron of my old Budweiser team. Now they're over working on PepsiCo within VaynerMedia universe, and even Adam Locke from that matter. Adam was their boss, the ECD. Some of the best storytellers that I've ever been around, and a lot of the work that they did on Budweiser is really redefined how you can go to market in terms of creating long form, deeply emotional storytelling in a platform like a Facebook or a YouTube, while it's still in an advertising setting. Not like an episodic long form YouTube series or anything. We're still talking about ads, but in a viral video fashion. So I think those guys are some of the best creatives I've worked with out there. But then flip it up and think strategically. I think Katie Schill, who was she was an account person / strategist for me in my AB InBev years as well. I had her working on Stella Artois and Budweiser. She's now I think she's senior director of marketing at Calm. She's doing some amazing things for them over there. And then from a guy that I didn't really work with, I worked with him. I didn't manage him, but we were kind of peers in the industry. Actually, there's a couple people. A guy named Mike Grillo that I worked with. He had left VaynerMedia in 2017, but he went on to found Gravity Blankets and just recently sold that brand. So from an innovation standpoint, I'd say he's out there. John Troutman and Nathan Schroeder, they're former folks that used to work in Gary Vee's inner circle. They worked on something called the Office of the CEO for Gary. But they went out to help Gary found Empathy Wines, and they helped Gary sell Empathy Wines to Constellation Brands, and now they're essentially running all DTC marketing for that portfolio of brands. So I'd say that's a good list of 5 people that I know from just my experience. In most recent experience at VaynerMedia. I could rattle off a few more from my old Audi days.
That's enough. I got one final question before we end the live and we go to the OT, because this is very important to Tim and I. And Tim may have a question as well, but Wes, our producer, Wes is the president of the Ohio Britney Spears fan club. Mm-hmm. Do you have any connection? Do you know anyone that knows her that maybe we could, do a little bit of, bringing them? Do you know anybody that might know Britney Spears? Just
probably not. I mean, you never know. I could probably search around and find like a connection of a connection that knows her or something like that. But me personally, I've always been more of like a sports fan and a kind of a science fiction nerd. So I've not really partaken in much of the kind of reality TV, Twitter water cooler world as much.
Well, I know you're such a giver. I'm sure you're gonna start searching through your Rolodex, and it's important to Wes.
I mean, if I come across somebody that knows Brittany, I'll figure. I mean,
just keep it in the back of your mind, just keep it back in the back of your mind. Tim, you got another question before we get out of here? We go to the OT.
I was just gonna say, I think we're doing Wes a disservice because I think Wes is definitely more of a tech a nerd when it comes to Star Wars and that kind of stuff than he is to Brittany. So I'm protecting you here, Wes.
I feel like we got a little bit of a clinic today on some marketing stuff. So I'm excited for the rest of these questions. I got more questions for the OT. So we're gonna get out of here. And Joe, he sent you that other link. So if you want to exit out of here, we'll go to that. And I don't know if you watched our show, but we sign out like this. So we just wait for Wes to show.
We have a guest next week.
Oh, who is our guest next week?
His CEO of a company called Gusher, Chris Joyce.
Yes.
I follow him on LinkedIn. He's really well spoken and got some great advice. So he's going to join us next week.
Awesome.
Yes. Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to go to the OT. So we'll see you later.